Hello, spirit lovers! I am Yaroslava, sommelier and wine educator, your guide on this journey for the world of wines, spirit and cocktails. Our hero today is gin. Gin is a strong alcoholic drink made from distilled spirit by redistillation with aromatical botanicals, the most important of which is juniper. Although gin is primarily associated with England, its origins are not English at all. The original idea to making strong alcohol with juniper came from a Benedictine monk in Salerno, southern Italy, in the 11th century. Benedictines are indeed remarkable people. Without them, our world of alcohol would be significantly duller. The monastery in Salerno was surrounded by juniper forest, so the idea to use juniper was readily obvious. The monks infused wine with juniper berries and distilled it. The result was a juniper elixir, which doctors used to treat nearly everything: coach, colds, pains, strains, raptors, cramps, and many other conditions. Medicinal, primarily phytocidal properties of juniper had been known for centuries, so even if the elixir could not cure everything, it was useful in some cases. Plus, it was a tasty, spirit-lifting drink, making the treatment ever pleasant. In the 16th century, the direct ancestor of gin appeared, created by infusing spirit with juniper and other aromatic botanicals, and then redistilling it. The exact origin is difficult to pinpoint, but it is most likely that the gin was first made in Italy. From there, it spread to distilleries of Holland, Belgium, and northern France, becoming very popular to the mid-17th century. In this region, it is known as Genevieve. The modern English word gin is most likely a shortened version of the Old English word Genevieve, which England adopted from the Holland along with the drink. Another theory suggests that gin is derived from the Latin juniperus, although it seems likely that juniperus is the root of all these names. In the 17th century, gin began its expansion into England, thanks to William III of Orange, the stadtholder of Holland, who became a co-sovereign of England, Scotland, and Ireland after the Glorious Revolution in 1688. The Dutch brought many good things to England, including gin. In England, gin didn't just become popular, it sparked a gin boom in the first half of the 18th century. The time is known as the gin craze. At the end of the 17th century, yet another conflict commenced between England and France, a common affair for these nations, leading England to impose heavy tariffs on all imported spirits, including French brandy, effectively halting these imports. Even modern-day governments have often used higher duties on alcohol imports as a form of retribution. For example, several years ago, the European Union increased the duty on American spirits by 25%, with allegation that the US government assisted Boeing. However, the government was concerned that citizens might not survive without a proper dose of spirits, so they decided to encourage gin production. They reduced taxes on spirit distillation and dropped licensing requirements. This caused the cost of gin to dive, making it cheaper than beer. Everyone began to making gin. By 1740, England produces 6 times more gin than beer. London alone made 10 million gallons of gin per year. The price was affordable even for poorest people, but the quality was dreadful. England lost itself to drinking. For a couple of decades, the government tried to curb this gin craze. Ultimately, higher taxes, strict licensing, strong requirements for gin quality, respectable decor in gin shops, and rising grain prices took effect. Gin became more expensive, its quality improved, and consumption decreased. Brewers, I believe, were quite pleased with this. In the 18th century, the base spirit for gin was made using pot stills, the only method available at the time. As a result, gin was softer and sweeter than modern dry gin. Since the advent of a column still in the 1828, the old-fashioned gin lost significant market share to dry gin. However, this type of gin didn't disappear completely. It goes by the name Old Tom Gin. The history of the name is quite amusing. At the beginning of a government's fight against the gin craze, prohibitive taxes and licensing were imposed, driving part of the gin production underground. Some pubs displayed wooden plates shaped like a black cat, an Old Tom, on their walls. Beneath the cat's paw was a slot for money and a lead tube. Patrons could deposit coins into the slot, and the bartender inside the pub would pour a shot of gin through the tube. Old Tom Gin quietly persisted through the 19th and 20th centuries. In the 21st century, riding the wave of renewed interest in classic cocktails, Old Tom Gin is making a hunky comeback. Some companies claim to use old recipes for their production, but who knows if this is true. The invention of the column still in 1828 made it possible to easily produce a pure, high-quality neutral spirit which became the base for London Dry Gin. The name London Dry, sometimes shortened to just London or Dry, does not indicate the place of production or a specific brand. Rather, it refers to a style, much like Old Tom Gin. London Dry Gin is made from neutral spirit distilled to 96% purity using column still and then redistilled with juniper and other botanicals in a pot still. The ethanol is diluted with water and the botanicals are macerated in the spirit. During this process, the alcohol liberates essential oils from the botanicals, which are carried over with the vapors through the swan's neck of the still. The intensity of a gin's aroma are regulated by the maceration time. The longer the maceration, the stronger the flavor. For instance, Beefeater gin has one of the longest maceration time among popular gins, 24 hours, resulting in a stable and intense flavor. For more delicately flavored gin, botanicals are not macerated in the spirit, but placed in a special basket in the head of a pot still. The vapors passes through the basket, extracting flavors from the botanicals. Pot still specifically adapted for this process are called Carter head stills, used in the production of Bombay Samphire gin. All aromatic compounds in London Dry Gin must be obtained during the distillation process. No flavors can be added after redistillation. After the innovation of London Dry Gin, England experienced another gin boom. Unlike the gin craze of the 18th century, this boom was more refined. London Dry Gin was of good quality and priced expensively enough to avoid the same level of social issues. A significant factor of the gin's popularity during the Victorian era was the British tropical colonies. The British Empire had many colonies, with numerous Englishmen living and working in these regions. However, these colonies also had malaria, and the only somewhat effective remedy at the time was quinine. Quinine was administered as a water solution, tonic, which was very bitter. Modern tonics contain only a trace of quinine for flavor. Mixing tonic with gin made it more palatable, so much so that it became a popular cocktail. I will talk about this cocktail separately. Consequently, gin became an extremely desirable product in the colonies. Today, gin remains highly popular in Great Britain. The third wave of gin popularity occurred in the United States during the Prohibition era. Gin was relatively easy to produce under concealed conditions, leading to its widespread production for thirsty Americans. However, the quality and taste of this homemade gin were often quite low, so various additives were used to mask its unpleasant flavors. This necessity gave rise to a boom of mixing drinks. Many gin-based cocktails were invented during this time, and several of them were so well crafted, especially when they were high-quality gin, that they have endured to this day. Now let's discuss the present reality of gin, including the legal framework, modern types, and base ingredients. Base ingredients. The origin of a base spirit can vary, including molasses, sugar beet, or grain. For dry gin, grain alcohol is predominantly used because it impacts the crispy texture of the gin, while molasses or beet-based spirits can result in a softer, sweeter impression. Flavors. The most crucial flavoring ingredients is juniper. By law, juniper must be dominant flavor in gin. Distillers then have the freedom to choose the rest of the botanicals. Commonly used botanicals include coriander, citrus peel, angelica root, anise, and licorice. The exact recipes used by distillers are closely guarded secrets. Classification and characterization of different gin types. The European Union differentiates 4 legal categories of gin. First category: juniper flavored spirit drinks. This is the oldest category of gin. The spirit for these drinks are made by malt distillation in pot stills and is then redistilled with juniper and other botanicals in similar pot stills. A third redistillation with botanicals for a stronger taste is possible. The minimum alcohol content is 30%. The most notable gin in this category is Genevieve, also known as Pecked, Hollands, or Dutch gin. This traditional drink is native for the Holland, Belgium, 2 departments of northern France, and 2 lands of northwest Germany. This is the ancestor of British gin. The name Genevieve in 3 variants are registered as AOC, meaning these products can only be made in these respective regions. The same category includes Slovak Borovička and Brinjevec, Serbian Clay Kavacha, and some others. Traditionally made Old Tom gin also belongs to this category. Second category: London Dry Gin. London Dry Gin, or simply London or Dry, constitutes the second category. It is produced by redistilling 96% neutral spirit in the presence of a juniper and other botanicals. No additional flavors are allowed after redistillation. The minimum alcohol content is 37.5, which is the same for the next 2 categories. London Dry Gin cannot contain more than 0.1 gram of sugar per liter. As I mentioned earlier, this type of a gin offers a diverse range of aromas, depending on the botanical used. Therefore, when choosing a gin, consider your own taste preferences and how you plan to consume it, whenever need, in a gin and tonic, or as an ingredient on various cocktails. The third category: distilled gin. It is actually London Dry Gin, which includes additional flavors added after distillation. These flavors can vary wildly, ranging from the rose petal to cucumber, lemon, and beyond, similar to flavored vodkas. In modern times, there is a vast array of flavored gin available, which have gained popularity among bartenders for convenience. The final category, often refers to simply as gin, is a cold compounded gin. This method is the most economical way to add flavors to gin, and it does not require redistillation with juniper and other botanicals. Instead, the base spirit is infused with essential oils or artificial flavorings. While cold compounded gin is relatively inexpensive, its taste tends to be artificial and unbalanced, with flavors that may diminish quickly, even while in your glass. In the United States, gin is defined as an alcoholic beverage with no less than 40% alcohol by volume that exhibits the juniper berry aroma. If this aroma is achieved solely through the redistillation with juniper, the product can be classified as distilled gin. One of the most famous American gin is Aviation, produced in Oregon. This gin undergoes a double distillation process in copper pot stills. 7 different botanical ingredients are macerated in grain spirit for 18 hours to infuse their flavors. Unlike traditional gins, Aviation uses a lesser amount of juniper, allowing other botanicals to shine without the juniper overpowering the blend. This characteristic categorizes Aviation as an American dry gin. The gin named after the cocktail Aviation, a classic drink that we will delve into later. Canada recognizes 3 gin categories: Genevieve, gin, and London or dry gin. The term Genevieve, also known as Holland gin, is used in Canada to describe a product that somewhat resembles traditional Genevieve, although it is more accurate to refer to it as a simply Holland gin to avoid misappropriating the registered name. In Canada, the term gin and London dry gin are used interchangeably to describe various types of gin, including London dry gin, distilled gin, and cold compounded gin. The primary distinction between gin and London dry gin in the Canadian context is the presence of sugar. Canadian London dry gin must not contain any sweetener, while gin may contain up to 2% sweetener. Consequently, the label on Canadian gin bottles doesn't provide much information beyond the sugar content. As a result, consumers may need to rely on their familiarity with specific gin brands or experiment with different options to find one that suits their preferences. Alternatively, they may opt to explore more predictable European gin products. It is worth mentioning sloe gin, which despite its name, is not technically gin. Sloe gin is a British liquor made by infusing the gin with sloes, the fruits of a blackthorn bush. With a sweetness and an alcohol content of 25%, sloe gin is a popular choice for cocktails and sipping. While its label might not always include the word liquor, the full and correct name is sloe gin liquor. Gin can be consumed neatly or as a base of numerous cocktails. The most popular among them is gin tonic. About gin tonic and some other cocktails I definitely will talk. Neat gin is better to drink cold. You can just splash some gin into the freezing glasses or pour it on the rocks. Slice of lemon, lime or cucumber can be added for freshness. June 11 is the World Gin Day. Time to take out the bottle of gin. Oh please, don't tell me that you don't have at home at least Beefeater. Today I have a special gin made in the Buckingham Palace. This gin is crafted in small batches for royal occasions with botanicals grown in the gardens of a Buckingham Palace. Bottled during the reign of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, who had a fondness for this gin despite not consuming alcohol in her later years. It's said that the Queen would often enjoy the scent of a gin as she meticulously cleaned her jewelry by hand. This is for you, this is for me. The gin is simply perfect, with strong, bright and fresh aroma. I completely understand Her Majesty in her aspiration to keep her jewelry ideally clean. Stay with me, subscribe to my channel. Feel free to ask questions and don't hesitate to support me. Cheers!